Testament 3 documents God's frustration at being unable to control mankind, damning them for not following his word and law. His time is deemed wasted for not creating a mind without free will. He even implies that this is why the Lord created hell, to punish and torture those he could not control, with just a hint of regret that he could no longer control the underworld as well. Only time will tell if God is truly out there or if God really is dead. The fifth layer of hell is now called wrath instead of anger as it was in Divine Comedy, but I'm okay with this change. Wrath has always struck me as a very biblical term, so it is fitting, and it also gives them an excuse to play on the whole Poseidon's wrath thing, an Olympic Greek god of the sea and storms, so, you know. The layer of wrath is also home to the river Styx, where the ferrymen of the underworld Charon would guide souls to their transition to damnation. How do you say that? Hold on, let me look it up. According to Wikipedia, it's actually pronounced Charon, something about CH making more of a sound. What I'm looking at describes it as starting to make a K sound but not finishing it, so it's more like an H but like an aggressive H. I'm gonna try to commit to that. It'll be a little tricky. Charon would also cross the river of Acheron, the river of misery, but I don't know if we'll be seeing that in ULTRAKILL since I'm not entirely sure how they would fit that into the whole circles of hell theme. Maybe fraud. That might be where God's hiding after all. Alright, so remember everything that I just told you about the whiplash and its self-inflicted heart damage? Okay, don't forget about it entirely, but do put it on hold for just a little bit, because that doesn't apply when you're underwater. This makes it so much easier and more convenient to move around and traverse these arenas while underwater. This was likely done to make sure that the player can freely navigate these underwater arenas of Layer 5 without compromising on what makes an underwater level an underwater level, lower gravity and whatnot. This is a very nice change. This wasn't the case when the update first came out. Keeping that slower movement of 5-1 alongside this heavy use of cold colors on screen really helps the level stand out with this really mellow feeling that's still consistent with the game's art direction. Even down to the low pass filter, which muffles the music track while V1 is submerged. If you ever pop your head out of the water, you'll notice a lot more of that breakcore-esque percussion that's probably still playing once you're submerged, but is just so drowned out that you can't really hear it. Pun not intended. Actually, maybe it is. Oh, Akita, what are you doing to me? 2 levels in the same act where we bring multiple skull keys to the same hub? You're spoiling me, dude. Doctor, I think my dope fish is broken. Not supposed to get this yet. Hello, puppies. What bad dogs. 5-1 also introduces us to blue hook points, which behave like a slingshot that you don't need to unhook from to maintain your momentum. It almost feels like it gives you a bit of a boost once you hit the end of it, but I'm not entirely sure. That could just all be in my head. Alright, stupid confession time. When I first saw the tutorial message calling these slingshots, my brain went to the astrodynamics term of the same name, which is when you use the gravity of a celestial body as a slingshot to increase a rocket's momentum while using significantly less fuel. It wasn't until doing this video that I realized, oh wait, it's probably just talking about a slingshot that you arm with your hands. I wish I could explain why this is how my brain works. It appears that I'm early. Joke's on you, I brought my own key.
You're not supposed to be here.
Well, in fact, I'm not. That's gonna be pleasantly annoying. Sentries, a bipedal mobile turret armed with an antimatter rifle and capable of digging its legs into the ground to absorb recoil. It's almost like a miniature Metal Gear. Oh wait, we already have those and they're called geckos, and ironically, these fuckers are the ones that look more like real geckos. And by that I mean they're green, and I realize that doesn't work because not all geckos are green. I take it back. Sentries were machines used in mankind's, quote, final war, according to the lore codex, later repurposed for treks into hell. With the fall of mankind and the machine's drive to sustain itself using hell's resources, sentries became highly sought after by other machines. Their structural metal, this lightweight but also sturdy stuff that lets them absorb the insane recoil of a fucking antimatter rifle, would sure be nice to make a new arm out of. I'm pretty sure that this is where V2 got chunks of his whiplash from, and if I had to guess, maybe the spear was from the tail of a hideous mass. That's the only thing I could think of that has anything remotely similar to a grapple hook. 12 health and no resistances nor weaknesses, though they are immune to fall damage, though this won't really be noticed too often. They are locked in when they dig themselves into the ground, unflinching when bombarded with nails or shotgun pellets. If they're on their own, then that makes them really easy pickings, but it doesn't make them a complete pushover. Sentries will tend to stay farther away from the player, and if you give them a chance to fire off that cannon that they're charging, they are 100% accurate, assuming that you're not blocking your line of sight. The only method I've seen to come out of this, other than just tanking the blast, is to try to dash through their shot using iframes. They demand your attention, almost acting like a ranged pressure unit, a concept that I never really thought would be possible aside from an enemy that creates hazards kinda like the Virtues. Now, their presence is fairly obvious once they begin charging their rifle. I can really only think of one instance in Act 2 where there's a sentry so far away that I couldn't hear the incessant beeping, and that was during an optional encounter near the end of the act, so I'll give it a bit of leeway. Avoiding their line of sight isn't always gonna be your best choice though. V1 can directly cancel them by uprooting them with a knuckle blaster or a ground slam shockwave, or interrupting their charge with a revolver to the antenna, which also happens to be conveniently targeted when hit with a Rico shot. You can also just blast them with the electric rail cannon, that works too. If you're feeling ballsy though, you can also parry their blast during this short window right before they fire, indicated by the pink light on the front of them flashing yellow for a brief moment. Or you can also just simply return the gecko. Alright, that was a charge back and an ultra Rico shot. I'll take it. Careful though, they know how to use those legs. Not bad. This stage is incredibly fun once you get the hang of the whiplash, but it takes a bit of time to get used to it. Now it's time to be like the average United States college student and not touch any water. I'm sorry, that doesn't mean we'll be substituting it for Mountain Dew. Like 2-3, this challenge is otherwise impossible if we don't drain the water, which can be done in the very first room of this stage by smashing these 3 valves hidden behind walls. You're not through the clear just yet though. You still have to watch out for existing bodies of water. It may have drained low enough for the player to platform between these arenas, but a simple misstep can still fuck up the challenge. This also means that you're vulnerable to the whiplash's hard damage here, limiting your potential movement and making this challenge a bit more difficult than it appears on the surface. Even in the final arena where I thought I was safe reveals narrow streams of water in unexpected places. You need to keep your eyes open and not assume where water is and isn't. It is a fun challenge for sure, but I was a little confused when I finished it, thinking that I was completely dry and finding out I was a bit moist. Reaching P rank is more than possible while taking on this challenge, but I mean, where's the fun in that? I want to whiplash shit. Great level, very promising for the layer of wrath. King Crimson, remove his ability to say ricochet correctly. Oh wait, that was Heaven's Door. How do I even make a King Crimson joke?
I'm killing you.
This video is sponsored by Helix Sleep. Helix provides minimum customized mattresses made to suit your sleeping needs, shipped straight to your door. All of us sleep differently. I've always been a belly sleeper myself, and finding the right mattress for my belly sleeping needs has always been a frustrating game of trial and error prior to Helix. But they're here to save you from that hassle with their sleeping quiz, designed to match you with the perfect mattress to suit your sleeping needs and preferences. And if you don't remember from last time, I was matched with the Helix Midnight Luxe. So it's been a couple of months since I started using this Helix mattress, and I'm sure that some of you are wondering, is it still just as good? Honestly, I think it's gotten even better. I can't honestly tell if the mattress has just had time to break in to fit my form or if it just naturally does that over time, but I never wake up with back or shoulder pain like I used to before Helix. And their dream pillows, man. So I sleep with a ton of pillows on my bed every night, and I know that's kind of childish to do. At least I've always been told it's childish. And I guess that in my sleep, I also agree that it's kind of weird because some of these pillows end up on the floor the next morning. But when I wake up, I'm always laying on one of these dream pillows. All of this, alongside some self-reflection for the last couple months, has actually fixed my sleep schedule for, I think, the first time in my adult life. So thank you, Helix. Seriously, thank you. Like I said before, Helix delivers straight to your door with free shipping in the US, coming rolled up in a box that was remarkably easy to set up, though don't set it up by yourself, get someone to lend you a hand. Aside from Helix's 10-year warranty, Helix provides flexible payment options, financing options, and even a 100-day sleep trial. If your bed isn't a right fit, they'll come by, snag it up from you, and get you the mattress that you need or your money back. I love my Helix mattress, and I think that you will too. Click the link down below or go to helixsleep.com/Trav and get up to $200 off your Helix mattress. Thank you once again for sponsoring this video, and now let's get back to it. 5.2 takes a bit of a departure for its presentation, but like the previous level, handles itself very well and maintains that consistency. Most of this stage has a calm atmosphere, most of which broken up by the sound of stringed instruments every now and then, becoming a motif in a heavier track near the end of the stage. Outdoor areas are gloomy, shades of blue and gray, while indoor areas often stay unlit and left in darkness. This is made even more unsettling by the fact that the river Styx around us has become flooded with the remains of mankind following their extinction. Arms can be seen reaching for the surface, their souls all fighting for a breath of fresh air. Where's Karen to ferry all these souls to the lower layers when you need them? Well, it's a bit more complicated than that. In Divine Comedy, Karen is often depicted as an ill-tempered old man, but that's not the case here. I'm not sure if it's because of modern pop culture giving him an almost Grim Reaper sort of look. I couldn't find a single source on where this look came from, so I'm gonna blame John Romero's Daikatana. To give a bit of historical context, it wasn't uncommon for the dead in 16th century Greece to have coins placed on or even in their eyes, sometimes even their mouths, believing that their souls would need these coins to cross into the afterlife, else their souls would forever float in the river Styx. Many would forge their own coins, thinking it would be enough for Karen. This is why ferrymen and pop culture are often asking for coins. In ULTRAKILL, we find a diary from this universe's ferryman, implying and later confirming when we read about it in the terminal that the ferryman here is in the broader rank of a husk. When a husk is formed to these specifications, there can only be one ferryman here in the river Styx, so when another husk is formed to these specifications, the two fight to the death, with the victor becoming the next ferryman of the river Styx, and the loser, their skull taken as a trophy. They've been given this task from the heavens, donning a holy cloth as a sign of their approval, despite being a husk, bearing a sliver of heavenly power. This has come with some side effects though. The skeletons of these intelligent husks becoming tainted and dyed, turning their bones a deep blue, and the skulls plucked from their fallen ferrymen becoming conduits to their heavenly energy, given to the surviving ferrymen to be used as a key, giving them access to the gates of hell that only angels previously had access to. Yes, what I'm telling you is lore for the skull keys that we've been using all this time. These are the heads of fallen ferrymen. The current ferryman, though, has a bit of a monopoly on the job since mankind all fell at once, unable to ferry every soul left in the river Styx. The tide of souls nearly capsizing his ship, and would have died inside if it wasn't for Gabriel swooping in at the last second to save the poor guy. And if you take this diary at face value, it really sounds like he's got a thing for Gabriel. Yeah, they'd make a pretty cute couple, fuck it. His gratitude doesn't end in writing though. All over these parts you'll find these small statues of other holy tributes to Gabriel, carved as a sign of gratitude. These were actually once smaller ceramic-like demons that only had enough willpower to be a living thing, but not enough to move or be mobile in any degree. The ferryman has carved these into the Holy Madonna, the Virgin Mary holding the baby Jesus. Gabriel tolerated these, but fears that if the Holy Council found out, he'd be forced to destroy all of them by punishment, seeing them as a perversion of God's image. These idols, though, due to their close proximity with the ferryman's draped heavenly power, have come to life in a way, well, more than they already were, giving them the ability to aid their peers with heavenly protection, and this is translated translated into gameplay in the form of, well, the idols. I know that idols hardly count as an enemy, but I'm gonna give them their own entry here regardless. They've got 1 health, but they're immune to all of V1's moves except for melee, exploding into a geyser of blood sufficient to heal the player completely. You would expect the timing and context of their appearance to make them act like demonic hook points, but no, they're actually one of the few enemies in the game that you can't whiplash. Though this is somewhat consistent. With enemies like the Hideous Mask, for example, you can't grapple onto the ceramic parts of their armor, only the funny little fleshy bits. Oh, that's not supposed to happen. Idols balance this by rendering another demon on the battlefield completely immune. The only thing that could kill a blessed demon in this case is if they get Marised, which, yeah, good luck with that. Treat them like a buff totem. If you know that one is present, just hunt it down and smash it as soon as you can. Or at least as soon as the game lets you. What the fuck? That is not a ferry, that is the Titanic! Are there any icebergs in the river Styx? I'd feel deep shame for dying to that. Why am I struggling with this? I am so sorry about that. I'd say that Hark struck him dead, but it was me. Well, that's convenient. Thank you for your service, ferryman. Keep the change, you've earned it. That took more tries than I'd like to admit. Don't worry, I'll be fighting the Blue Man Group head-on-head during the P-Rank run, which should be starting right now! Actually, no, I'm gonna get the last orb without the rocket launcher because fuck you. Oh, right, health. Forgot about that. Oh, hey, there's the scaffolding that comes up when you use the red skull key. That's pretty cool. That was fun. It took me a couple days after recording that I realized that there is a much easier method that I just completely glossed over. I can't fucking believe this. I've seen it. You're fond of me lobster. Nice soap sculpture, nerd. Yeah, I should have learned my lesson from the sandcastle. Stop breaking people's shit, V1. The Ferryman. 90 health divided into 2 45 HP health bars. This guy is really fast. It wasn't long ago that I had the hang of getting this guy down fairly reliably, but just that short time of not practicing this fight has made me super rusty. You have to be on top of your game here if you want to parry him to death. But once I got back into the zone, man, it felt like fighting a Dark Souls boss with how frequently I had to space out my dodges and parries. And I could say that now, I've beaten a Dark Souls game. Most of his attacks follow hard-hitting 1-2 combos. You can only parry the second hit in his combo, so you have to dodge out of the way of that first one. I've developed a habit of dashing backwards so that the first swing is completely negated, while simultaneously lining me up almost perfectly to parry his second swing. This is risky, but very rewarding. A parry also doesn't interrupt his attack, so he will still swing at you that second time. When he's taken enough punishment, he'll move the fight to higher ground next to one of his idols, and if you're too slow to catch up, he'll summon fucking lightning to strike at you. Now, you can charge back this lightning with a coin, but you need some godly speed to weaponize this against him. Yeah, I'm not even going to attempt this, but I'd rather just be called the fucking parry man. Don't call me that. I could do better. Alright, I'm pretty happy with that. Look, he even agrees. Don't worry, I'll give my regards to Gabriel. You won't be forgotten. Yes, I know that there's a super secret in this level. I'm saving that for the end of the video. Just keep watching. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it'll be worth your time, I promise. Alright, let's kick it up a notch. This ship was massive from the outside, but I think it's even bigger on the inside. I don't know though, it's kind of hard to judge the size of something like this. I love 5-3. The aesthetic, the gut-busting challenge, and oh god, this upbeat, intense track composed for the mission is something else. That distorted guitar is already beautiful, and then they introduce this really powerful brass section. And then later on, it brings it all together, combining these two opposing families of instruments together, and it is astonishing. I'm sorry, I just needed to gush over that track. It's such a good track. Believe it or not, this isn't even my favorite track in Act 2. Ship of Fools is a lot like 1-3. We need to bring at least one colored skull key to this split color doorway, but both are required for the level's challenge. This time though, it's not a secret encounter with two bosses previously seen in the episode. That comes in a couple levels from now. We are still given the choice of which colored skull to grab first, though I didn't know this until even writing this video. I thought that the red path didn't even open until you finished the blue path, but for the sake of pacing, I still go for the blue skull first, and I don't think I've really ever done this level without getting both skulls. Oh, that's a big demon. I bet it's attracted to all these tributes to Gabriel. This is like a reverse Moby Dick. Call me Ishmael Gabriel. Nope, never mind. That is the wrong way. I would make fun of the ferryman for having looping audio of his idol praising him on loop, but then I remember the first time I met creators that I watched acknowledge me. I get it, man. Just, you know, try to get used to the feeling so it becomes less weird. That took me a while to get the hang of. Oh, right, you're kind of dead right now, so never mind. It is kind of poetic, though. This was Gabriel's speech to the ferryman shortly before he was saved from his ship capsizing. And now we're hearing it just before we capsize it. Well, actually, the demon that we just saw in the window does it, but I've got to take the blame to myself. I forgot to dual wield. That's okay, I'll have shit to say about this room during the P rank run. Wait, are you telling me the last ferryman had a fucking Mega Buster? Oh, Rocket Cock returns! Oh, no, please, I've seen Inception. Don't do this to me. Honestly, I'm surprised that it only flooded this much. All right, the rocket launcher. Of course, I'm gonna say that it's amazing, that's a given, but it's also kind of interesting, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's a little bit divisive between fans, or at least was when it first released. It's not what you would expect from a weapon like this in this kind of genre, and to explain it better, I'm gonna dive into the lore first. In the world of ULTRAKILL, it was originally created as a tool for war, not a weapon for war though, intended for quickly digging trenches and blasting debris on the battlefield. battlefield, later repurposed into an industrial tool after the war. The rocket itself, the projectile I mean, is where it starts to really get interesting. When fired at anything not organic, or at least not containing blood, it doesn't explode, it just pushes everything away, like a concussive blast or a bottle popping from having too much pressure build up inside of it, except, you know, it's strong enough to shove you to the other side of the room. It's not unless the warhead makes direct contact with blood, and specifically blood, that the exothermic reaction is triggered, detonating the rocket. I understand that this is just how the game justifies its use in gameplay within the lore, and I actually really like this explanation, but I did a bit of digging, mostly for my own curiosity, to see if I could find anything that would tie this down to reality. The only chemical that comes to mind that I can think of that specifically would have an exothermic reaction with blood, while also ignoring other compounds like protein and water, is hydrogen peroxide, or H2O2. Just about every living creature on Earth contains an enzyme called catalase, or catalase, I don't know how to say it. And the purpose of this enzyme is to specifically react with hydrogen peroxide if it enters the bloodstream, and splitting it back into molecules of hydrogen and oxygen to keep it from oxidizing our bloodstream, because oxygen fucking hates us. If an explosive like this were to exist in real life, it would need to use hydrogen peroxide, or something similar, as a primer to start building up heat and pressure, which would then ignite something explosive that reacts to heat, like gunpowder, for example. Again, this tangent was purely for my own curiosity. Don't take any of this as a critique for the game itself. I just wanted to share what I found, and I think that it's really interesting. Okay, back to video game. I think it's time to get back to the video game. Nothing happens, but you're sure that Hank Jr. and his Hankcestors would appreciate it if they weren't dead. Hankcestors feels like a slur. Also, now we know Hank was a ferryman. Good for you. Thank you, Junior. Really, all you need to know is that if the rocket makes direct contact with an enemy, it'll explode, just like every other rocket launcher in a video game you could think of. Maurice is still immune to them, just like core ejects, but he's really the only exception. It should explode on everything. Normally, it deals 3.5 damage per rocket, but also can deal double damage with a larger blast radius if it's hitting a falling target. And upon hearing that, a specific combo should immediately come to mind, like launching an enemy by shooting a rocket next to their feet and then trying to hit them while mid-air. So many years of playing direct hit soldier have trained me for this moment. This only applies to falling enemies though, not solely airborne ones. Virtues and bosses like Gabriel don't take double damage from this. They need to be naturally grounded enemies for this bonus to apply, which is fair. At the moment of this video, we've only got the blue variant, the freeze frame, which allows the player to freeze rockets for a total of 6 seconds with a 10-second cooldown, though you can ration this about as much as you want. You can use this for makeshift mines, make them easier to shoot with your revolver for a larger explosion, though this does still only deal 3.5 damage, or make them easier to jump onto. Yep, just like Dante himself. That is fucking awesome. It has though been balanced since it debuted. You used to be able to endlessly chain these rockets together. As soon as a rocket began to fall while riding on it, you can freeze time, fire another rocket, and then just jump onto that rocket and just lather, rinse, repeat forever. Today though, you can only ride 3 rockets chained together before they start losing some distance, and then falling from the get-go by your 7th chained rocket. This can be reset by touching solid ground, so you can preserve some of that height of your 3rd rocket, assuming that you're flying straight up into the air, by doing one of those ground slam bounces as high as you can get, and then continuing from there. It's not ideal, there is a cap to how high you can bounce. You can also just whiplash a rocket right at you, which also bounces you straight up into the air despite which direction the rocket is whiplashed at you. I've resorted to using this a lot in the cyber grind rather than the pump charge explosion. It's not to say that the pump charge is useless, it's just that these rockets are better for just flying straight up into the air. Let's see, what else? Oh yeah, it's attracted to magnets too, turning it into a homing projectile for whatever enemy you've tagged with the nail gun's rockets. But only enemies. Today, if the magnet is on the wall or the floor, then a fired rocket will just continue going straight. It needs to be on an enemy. But that's fine. Even then, you can only use this for 3 shots, and after that 3rd shot, that magnet is gone, which seems like a fair balance. This is also great against Cerberus, who take a 1.5 damage multiplier to rockets, making that their only damage modifier now that I think about it. You can also use this as a much more convenient way to hit the Mind Flayer's instant kill window, assuming that they haven't patched it. Oh boy, it's another one of those don't touch the water challenges. That's okay, by now we've learned that these are unique enough to not just be simple don't touch the water, floor is lava bullshit. We also don't see any water until the ship tips over. If you follow the main path of the level, you're gonna get blasted with a face full of water that is impossible to avoid. And that's why we need both colored skulls. That same path we took to get to this orb by using both red and blue skull keys becomes our dry path to the end after the ship is tipped over. I'm honestly impressed that they were able to give this area purpose both before and after the ship is flipped. That's really cool. I made my P run a little harder than it needed to be. I was having a lot of fun trying to dual wield core nukes, and then ended up killing myself more than I'd like to admit. It's my own damn fault I took this long, but I don't really care. This is my second favorite level in Act 2 to replay solely for fun. It's a great mission, great pacing, great encounters, 5 stars across the board, I love it. 5-4 starts with a race to the surface. It doesn't matter how you break the water, just that you reach the appropriate fight so you're brought to the boss fight of the layer. Which means that instead of following the main course, I can... Oh my god, it's the fucking eel boss from Mario World! Time to ha-hoo! Ah! The Leviathan, the very same beast who paved the way for the ferryman's infatuation with the Archangel Gabriel, and the same motherfucker who tipped the ship over in the previous level. 200 HP divided into two 100 HP phases, where the head and tail are both simultaneously active. Obviously, the head is going to be a lot easier to hit, but there's a lot of ceramic-like plating around its mouth. You gotta be a bit careful with your timing here, but after most of his attacks, he'll expose this heart that's pinned to the back of his head, taking triple damage if you can get enough of a beating on it. So with good timing, you can... Why is it screaming? Okay, there is a lore explanation for this. The Leviathan is an interesting demon, one that's a direct consequence of the extinction of mankind. With the river Styx overflowed with sinners' bodies, those who gave up trying to reach the surface surrendered themselves to an eternity of drowning. And with so many of them concentrating at the bottom of the river and a sprinkle of hell energy, their souls all fused together into 44 segments of a really long motherfucker. This is how the beast was created, and the hearts of their souls all fused together, boasting enough force between them to nearly break out of the beast, becoming enough of a threat for Gabriel to feel that he had to intervene, pinning the Leviathan's heart to the back of its head to keep it down. This creature wasn't created per se, but was an appetizer of hell's corrupting power, a side effect of the realm, something that the angels could handle but was still a threat. Regular enemies don't spawn here, but you do get a unique style bonus if you drop enemies into the abyss below using cheats. Well, why did you make it so funny to spawn enemies here? A lot like the Mind Flayers, you can use explosions to push its own barrage of fireballs back down its gullet. That's pretty cool. This is a move that reliably puts his heart in center view, creating a window of opportunity to grapple onto the thing and deliver some magnetic punishment. It's generally a good idea to switch back to the overheat nail gun for this fight. The saw blade won't be quite as effective. It wasn't really hard to P-rank this guy, it just took me a bit to get a run that I was happy with. I could probably do better, but that was fun. I'm keeping that one. Yeah, this is a really fun boss, especially if you use the whiplash as much as you're able to. It's exhilarating chasing this guy all over the place. You ready for swords machines to be common enemies? Sure took them long enough. I forgot the saw blade, hold on. I love not being able to give that guy the attention he demands sometimes. I always like to knuckle blaster these two filth that come out of the shadows. They're one of the few enemies that teleport in that don't have the teleportation graphic, giving the appearance of them just running out of the darkness. I'd like to see this trick used more in the future, it's pretty cool. I can't believe Gabriel tried to keep me from the bean chamber. Those are vials of baked beans and you cannot change my mind. Setting up a saw blade trap does take a bit of forethought here. If you just stick the magnet to the ground, the saw blades that end up orbiting it will get stuck between the bottom remains of these bean canisters, quickly beating down their durability. So for best results, slam down a can of baked beans and then put the magnet on top of the lifted platform where it once was. And I'm not saying that just because there's another swords machine here, but it does certainly help. Don't worry, there's gonna be more of them. Yeah, there was supposed to be a sentry in this room. I'll never forget the first time I heard this track. 6-1 marks V1's descent into the city walls of Dis, named after Dis Pater, also known as Rex Infernicus, the Roman god of the underworld whose city walls encompass the lower 4 layers of hell in Dante's Inferno. And by God does the soundtrack reflect this while still feeling new and intense, but then also calling back to previous tracks and motifs to remind us of how far we've come, and it tickles my brain in a way that's really similar to Davoth's theme from Doom Eternal. It's incredible. Last time we heard this track was right before our fight with Gabriel, so it's very fitting here. I also can't not think of this edit made by Twitter user Vegabox that still brings me unfiltered joy.
I would never cry to a
video game
song. Let's be honest. I am a man.
Fuck. Remember how the insurrectionists are weak to fire? I had no idea what killed Rude so fast in the moment when I was recording this. Did Angry just land on Rude and kill them both while simultaneously being chip damaged to death through fire? So much for 0% friendly fire. What the fuck happened here?
So that was a
Yo, shout out to Arm Boy. They're beautiful, aren't they? Oh, Jesus! Why is the sentry so far away? Oh, that's just the word penis with a smiley emoji. You know, sometimes I really feel like Hakita understands me at a spiritual level.
Machine, I know you're here. I can smell the insolent stench of your blood.
You can smell me?
I await you down below.
Oh, I will come to you, my friend. Now bring back the masses.
Come to me.
Oh my god, the Castlevania motif with this holy chorus put over it. Oh, it's so good. What an incredible level. My absolute favorite for Act 2. It's hard, it's brutal, but it's fair, with some of the most fun level geometry that comes to mind when I think of ULTRAKILL. And yeah, this level kicked my ass when I was going for the P rank. It took me almost 40 minutes to record a run of me not dying during the perfect run, or prime run, whatever you want to call it. Which, again, like 5-3, was my own fault. I was trying to get some cool trick shots with the core nuke, but also like 5-3, I never felt like I was out of my depth, and even came away learning some new skills that I'm definitely going to be using later, like letting go of the whiplash immediately after launching myself towards an enemy so I'm not accumulating too much hard damage, or like following up a ground slam shockwave with a bounce and a rocket launcher to not entirely insta-kill a sentry, but still knock them into a nearby pit or lava hazard, which is essentially the same thing, doing some thick damage to anything nearby. The closest I've got to a critique with this stage is that I'm not the biggest fan of the enemies spawned by this blood orb being required for S-rank kills, but it's still a fun encounter, so I'm not exactly complaining too much. It's just preference. I can't really think of much critical to say. It is such a great send-off before we go beat Gabriel down for a second time. Well, we've got all the orbs currently available in ULTRAKILL to this point, meaning that we can now access the 5th tier of weapon skins. Yeah, you need every orb for these. Honestly, they look fine. It's really only the pistol that looks underwhelming. I kind of vibe with the rest of them. Yes, I know that we can unlock a custom color set if you use 1,000,000 Ultra coins. I'll be saving that for the next ULTRAKILL video down the line, though. Unless more weapon skins get added at lesser values. TBD.
Limbo. Lust. All gone. With gluttony soon to follow. Your kind know nothing but hunger, purged all life on the upper layers, and yet they remain unsatiated. As to you, you've taken everything from me, machine, and now all that remains is perfect hatred.
I don't even have any jokes to say here. I love Gianni's line delivery of this crybaby angel, followed by this incredibly strong organ that still manages to give me chills these few months after release. And the chills don't stop there. My man's is pissed that he lost his purpose after we shredded down his territory, and now all he really has left is the hope of V1's head on a crucifix-shaped stick. This is the only time you're gonna see me do this little obstacle course here before the fight. Not only can you cheese it by just rocket surfing through the whole thing, but you can also just rocket surf straight from the beginning of the level right up to the boss door. Really, I just went through it so that you can hear his speech in its entirety. I don't want to interrupt the Tumblr sexy man.
Machine, I will cut you down, break you apart, splay the gore of your profane form across the stars. I will grind you down until the very sparks cry for mercy. My hands shall relish ending you here and now!
Okay, I'm going up script here. I cut myself while shaving earlier today, and it literally hurts to get goosebumps like I just did, but it's worth it. This is the moment where ULTRAKILL went from a fun game that takes bits and pieces from across the genre to make a fun little shooter to something that I am now completely invested in. This is the moment where ULTRAKILL found its identity from my perspective, and it's high time that we put that identity to the test and put this guy down for a second time. I want you to see this fight in its entirety and then how it ends before I'm going to talk about the specifics of it.
taste of victory, but this taste is this my blood? I've never known such relief. I need some time to think. We will meet again, machine. May your woes be many, and your days few.
Man, I would have gotten a P rank if I wasn't listening to his speech. Not exactly regretting that, though. So I wanted to let you experience the fall of Gabriel in its entirety without being interrupted by numbers and nerd shit, because holy fuck do I love everything about this little scuffle. The lore, the presentation, the gameplay of the fight itself. It is incredible. And if I had to rank it, I'd say that I still prefer Minos Prime as a fight over Gabriel 2, but the presentation of this rematch is just so sublime that I think that makes it at least a contender for my favorite fight in the game. Gabriel, the prostate of... that's not the word. The apostate of hate. He shares a lot of the same health values between this and his previous fight. 100 HP divided between 2 health bars, and still retains a weakness to nails. He begins the fight enraged, which I don't think affects any of the gameplay, but is here to tell a story using the game's own mechanics. Gabriel enters this fight with a heart full of rage, cooling down as he gets his ass beat more. Not because he's taking multiple rocket-shaped concussions to the head, but because he's found his purpose again. This is also shown to us through the difficulty spike. His first phase is pathetically easy. All, if not most of his moves during this phase are variations of a 1-2-3 combo, with the third hit being parryable, either as a direct attack or as a projectile in the form of his swords that he throws. This is still the case during his second phase, but he mixes it up with a teleport just before the third part of his combo, purposely disorienting the player, encouraging them to slide to keep momentum going and have a better eye on the battlefield. He begins the fight sloppy, he's overcompensating, he's being driven by his own ego and pride. But by the second phase, he cools down, he's more collected, and ready to do that very thing that the heavens appointed him to carry out, keep the hells in their place. And it's because of this that he ends the fight a changed man. For once, Gabriel knew pain, and he knew the taste of his own blood, literally. He learned through this beatdown that the fire inside of him wasn't hatred, but passion. It reminds me of the line that if you can make God bleed, people will cease to believe in him. I know, that's from Iron Man 2, it's Marvel, it's cringe, I get it. You guys don't like Marvel, I like Marvel, fuck you. But regardless of that, I think that it is relevant to Gabriel here. Sure, the heavenly light inside of him is dying, but he still has the power of the heavens behind him. And then he lost, again, not by a fluke, but by a consistently more powerful force in V1. Gabriel's egg was beginning to crack. God may have created the heavens, but if there was a God, then God is dead to Gabriel. All of the horrendous crimes that he had committed against other living beings, all in God's name, were not done for the Father, but for a usurped throne infested by false prophets. He decided to take justice into his own hands. The auditorium of the heavens painted red in the blood of his once fellow angels. Once promised to be protected by holy light, now only resorting to feeble attempts at bureaucracy and diplomacy as they're begging for their lives. A pathetic display from a groveling imperialist force playing God. Your words have no power over me lest you truly believe you can talk my blade back into its sheath. He uses his time to take a stand, make a vow to the denizens of heaven that rings across the cosmos, that they were free. Holy shit, what a redemption. I really didn't think that this was the direction that they were gonna go with the character. Before I played Act 2, I thought that they were gonna set up Gabriel for being a bigger bad in Act 3 that would still usurp the throne of the Heavens Council, but not turn heel on them. But I'm very glad that this is the direction that they're taking, and knowing that Gabriel's time is limited, we know that he'll end up making some kind of sacrificial play. I really hope that this doesn't age poorly. As far as I'm concerned, after Act 2, 2, ULTRAKILL has become the story of Gabriel told from the perspective of heaven's own making. God's humanity project was an experiment that drove the Lord to abandon the heavens, leaving them victims of mankind's creations. Yeah, Gabriel is a pompous asshole, but he still was the only angel with enough empathy to care and protect the ferrymen of the river Styx, who, yes, were husks, but were still loyal to the Lord's will. I cannot wait to see what's next for Gabriel here, and seeing how his story inevitably, tragically, comes to a close. Jaquito crashed my game. Is anyone else incredibly tired right now? I know I am. Thanks for making it to the end of the video, though. This was probably the fastest I ever put out a video, but I did my best to make sure that it didn't compromise on the quality of what I was creating. I'd like to thank the newest member of the Golden Tier Patreon supporters, CJ Deluxe. Thank you so much for your last-minute pledge. If you'd like to join this list of names off to the side here and access the Discord server, then support me for a minimum of $1 a month over on Patreon, or support me on YouTube as a YouTube member. If you donate $10 or more a month, you get your name read out loud in the credits, alongside people like Thickless Mage, Mumbo45, Catgirl Sky, Shinespark, Dante Bishop, Nickel, EMC Mend, Dragon XRD, Silk, SSG Meathook, Lots of Caps, I Am the Pokemon Master, Otaku de Carnitas, Pixel Pocket, Slim Jim's Media Bin, EMT Neutrino, and Chef Kilo. Once again, thank you guys so much for your continued support. I look forward to seeing what you guys think of the video. Alright, take care.